Welcome back to the BioHub. Today we have an exceptional guest joining us in Dr. Stella Vnook. Stella is a seasoned biopharma exec with over 25 years of experience driving transformational change in the industry. She has a remarkable track record of building and managing successful startups from early R&D through to commercialization. As the CEO of Likarda and the founder of multiple companies, including OralBioLife, Stella is a true innovator in the biotech space. In this episode, we'll explore Stella's journey, her insights on building successful biotech startups, her unique approach to hiring first-time CEOs. We'll also discuss her experiences with gender dynamics in the industry, managing risks in smaller biotechs, and the importance of diversity and inclusion. Stella will share her thoughts on the future of cell therapies and the legacy she hopes to leave in biotech. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Dr. Stella Vnook. How are you, Stella?
Good. Thank you so much, Max, for a wonderful and kind introduction. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this conversation.
No, it's incredible to have you. Really incredible to have you. I feel privileged. So, I suppose just to start us off, Stella, just talk us through your journey and also some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your career.
Well, my journey started in science and really studying biology in combination with mathematics. And to be honest with you, I was always a bit of an odd ball, and I studied anthropology as well. And I actually was interested in anthropology because I've always been interested in evolution process, not so much from the Homo sapien perspective, but more from a bacterial and cell evolution. So I studied a lot of how the bacteria and viruses evolve.
Mhm.
So that curiosity, I think, sort of led me throughout my career. And I think it's obvious now that I really haven't followed that clear path that anybody has ever laid out in front of anyone. So my journey has always been from a left field or from a right field and very unconventional. But that curiosity from studying how the bacteria evolves led me to then working at Temple emergency department as an associate researcher and really being the forefront of innovation of how naloxone is administered. Transitioned my passion sort of from going through medical school into transitioning into pharmacy school. And again, the curiosity led me to oncology and pairing up the evolution of cancer cell treatments. Later led me to pharma, where I transitioned from all science all the time into really understanding the business
Yeah.
and well, how are the drugs made? What does it take for that under the microscope first innovation to go into the animal studies and actually making a difference in human? And then ultimately, what does it take to market and position the drug to the point where physicians prescribe it, they believe in it, and the patients get to benefit from it? That whole journey actually started out of my curiosity. Well, how do you go to the next step? And really led me to where I am now, which is the CEO and founder of multiple companies, but really helping other people to maybe fast forward to having their invention making a difference in people.
Yeah. Just describe that journey a little bit more, going from scientist to CEO. I suppose it's something from my standpoint, as a recruiter, you sometimes get that scientist go through, but often it's the BD or the commercial guys who are more
I
likely.
From medical affairs in pharmacy affairs, I transitioned to early roles in marketing teams. And then from marketing teams, I transitioned from a lot of times guiding the patient journey or positioning of the product in the marketplace, then maybe doing market research and really expanding on that scientific and therapeutic knowledge, then going into positioning the product for launch. And I spent a long time in managed markets. I thought that was also very critical because a lot of the decision makers are clinical pharmacists, physicians, nurse
Hmm.
practitioners, those people that sit on the committees and decide which drugs are best to put on a formulary. So that was my next step on the journey in being part of understanding what value does this drug bring to the healthcare? How do you position budget impact model or outcomes for the patient, for the healthcare? Because we want to make sure that drugs are not only effective, but they also um, enabling the health system to be sustainable. So, how do you create and launch products, and how do you position that pricing strategy? So, that was the next evolution. Then, I think that being part of joint ventures allowed me to understand how both companies operate. So, I went back deeper into the corporate structure and understanding, okay, well, if we had to run a company, what is the right sales strategy? What is the right marketing strategy? How do you integrate that science into business? And then ultimately leading to what decisions do you make when you acquire a company? And then later, when I left Merck, I actually ended up doing quite a bit of merger and acquisitions and looking at the science
Okay.
that could be integrated into business, but a lot of bridging would be how to apply your skills as a scientist in realizing what is the business value. And that, as a recruiter, you could appreciate because I sit with a lot of scientists now across many universities. And we talk a lot of times their belief in the asset, but maybe the disconnect in the marketplace, whether there's too many of the same products, whether it's going to be number six on the market and not
Yeah.
really differentiated, whether there's a patent for their invention. So that knowledge came maybe throughout the 25 years that is enabling me to do what I need to do now.
Yeah. Is it something you always thought you were going to do as well? Be CEO in the future? Is it like an end goal or?
So to be honest, I think it was a wish and maybe a dream that I didn't quite see how that would come to a fruition. There wasn't exactly a roadmap
Yeah.
from someone with a science degree. And when I first started out, and I'm glad to see that times are changing. I was probably the only woman in a calculus number three class, or one of the few women doing research or science, and probably one of the few people sitting around the table, a female, was rather young. I had an accent,
No, it's inspiring.
so I didn't fit into anybody's vision or mold of what the job description that they had in mind. I guess everybody has that mirror image of a person they see to fit that job description, and there's me. So I think I had to break through a lot of stereotypes and allow people to get to know me, to believe me, and that's always been a bit of a challenge I've learned to overcome. Uh, so I hope that that's changing, and that's part of my journey now, is to be able to either be there for people that are still breaking through those stereotypes, or be that spokesperson to say, really don't judge the book by its cover, whatever the cover is says to you.
No, I could not agree more. I mean, even like from a recruitment standpoint, you're seeing things change in terms of making sure we are hitting every point in diversity and inclusion. You know, you're obviously a very successful woman in biotech. You look at your experience, that's so true. Um, do you think biotech companies are doing enough, or do you think they could do better in supporting future women leaders?
Well, again, going back to mathematical equations, I think if we look at the data, we would definitely say that we're not doing enough. But I see definitely an acceleration and acceptance. And honestly, people like you driving this acceptance, because the more we see outside of that very narrow box, and maybe that's the box is simply this is what we know, or this is
Mhm.
what we grew up with, or this is how our parents have done it. So the more there are conversations like this one, that we're expanding the box, we're looking outside of those parameters, we're starting to accept that maybe what I think that person that fits into that job description um, is more than that. And as long as we're willing to be open to accept um, realities outside of our norms or how we were brought up, I think we're moving in the right direction. So I
Yeah.
definitely see that there's an acceleration of acceptance. And, for the sake of my daughter, so we all do it for a reason. Like I do it for making it easier for other women, but also for other minorities, because that also is different, right? So I sort of fit into somewhat multiple boxes of abnormalities. But my daughter was born and raised in this country. She is a female. She is going into science. She is interested in going into medical school.
Yeah.
And thinks she wants to be a surgeon. So I want her path to be the path of acceptance so she can thrive in her career, because I spent a lot of times overcoming barriers that maybe have set me back quite a bit, but I just kept moving forward.
Yeah. No, I think it's inspiring. Honestly, like you see some of the strong women leaders and CEO positions in the industry we're in. You talk about Emma Walmsley of GSK, it is getting better, and there is becoming those role models like you, like that make the world of difference as well. There's almost a thing like if England win the Soccer World Cup, for example, then that generation then see them and get inspired by them. It's the same kind of thing where you see these incredible women leaders right at the top of their game and people get inspired by them, and you see this knock-on effect. It's like that almost.
You're absolutely right, because that makes it achievable. That sort of becomes no longer a dream or fairy tale or something that, that will never happen, but I'm going to go for it anyway. That's what
Yeah.
I said to myself, because there weren't that many examples. So by plowing forward and sort of taking the place at the top, we're making it very known that it is absolutely hard work, and you absolutely are going to have to be resilient and determined, but it's absolutely possible, because now we have many examples of amazing women transitioning from science. We have an amazing example of actually people from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, with a lot of beautiful accents all around, right? So that we're making it a reality
Yeah.
that someone can look up to. And we also making it a more acceptable for that next candidate who's going for the interview that, like I said, maybe doesn't look like they fit the mold, to give them the opportunity and the chance that they deserve.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even me mentioning England winning World Cup, I suppose that's a bit of a pipe dream as well, to be fair. But and then look, I just want to move it on to like, you are a small company, startup builder, and obviously there's a bunch of significant risks, even more so in the way things are going at the moment. But how do you manage these risks at Likarda and other companies? And what would your advice be to others facing similar challenges?
Yeah, it's been a challenging environment. So one of the things that I have done when I stepped in as a CEO of Likarda last year is really to diversify the company in a variety of ways. So I'll kind of say number one, with Likarda, we have been focused on cell therapy, type 1 diabetes, and animal health.
Yeah.
And as a result of that technology, we realized that we actually can encapsulate not just islet cells, but liver cells, CAR T, and other entities, right? So, number one, we diversified the company into human health and really became a drug delivery company above and beyond the therapeutics indications that were going for animal health, and separated the two companies, if you will, one with
Okay.
animal health and one for human health, with the human health focusing on drug delivery for other companies. And that really comes from my previous experience as a founder of cell therapy companies. There is a need for this type of drug delivery, because we're still at the tipping point of figuring out what it would take for cell therapy to truly be effective. and really, especially talking about solid tumors, what would it take to stay on solid tumors? So then we further, number two, diversified the company into cell therapy, biologics, and large molecules and small molecules. We're now encapsulating small molecules, providing more effective treatment because we can actually encapsulate the molecule for the purpose of making it sustained release delivery. And number three, we went into a space of cryopreservation logistical solution.
Yeah.
Likarda, unbeknownst to them, have been sitting on a golden ticket because they have been shipping cells across border, like to Canada, on dry ice. And I had first heard about it when I was stepping into the role as a CEO, and it didn't really stick to me. And then the second time I heard the founder, Dr. Stenobettel, Lisa, she presented this, and then she said, "We are transporting these cells on dry ice." I said, "Wait a minute. As in dry ice without liquid nitrogen?" Because that really even didn't sink in the first time she said that. And she was like, "Oh, absolutely. The hydrogel protect against crystallization." And she said it so simply, and then it hit me. I said, "Well, this is what we need. I mean, the cost of um, preservation and transportation of these cell therapies is probably going to break the system because we can optimize cell therapy manufacturing, but the more we ship and transport, the higher the cost." So
Yeah.
from a pure, again, going back to my managed markets and economics background, that is a solution. So we created a whole different pillar for cryopreservation and transportation, and we just announced a partnership with a great company, CCT Cold Chain Technologies, that we're going to work together on coming up with solutions on that.
Nice.
So with that, strategy and vision, that came diversification of funding through partnership and different clients. We also are working on several grants from local government as well as the NIH. So once we crystallize what the strategy and vision is for the company, then the rest sort of lined up nicely.
Yeah, because I was going to play devil's advocate there and say, look, when if you're looking to diversify and increase that pipeline, isn't it going to cost more? But then you basically answered it anyway.
The
um,
goal is technology and it's the same tool, right? So we're not adding to workload to a great degree.
yeah,
We're just making it available to a much broader audience.
yeah, amazing. And then you've got this unique approach of hiring first-time CEOs. What advantages do you see in the strategy, and what qualities do you look for in these leaders?
I have a soft spot for helping people and hiring first time CEOs because I was the person that a lot of times needed that first chance, and again because I really didn't fit into anyone's version of a box. Only the brave ones sort of gave me the chance. So I do have that. I have to pay it forward and do this. This is part of who I am. So
Hmm.
I look for people. Well, I have to have a previous experience with someone, so it's unlikely that I'm just going to pick a person um, without knowing and say I'm going to help you be the CEO. But usually, it's people that I have worked with, whether it's in the consulting capacity or previously, or I have known, and they come to me. Look, I've either been the VP forever and ever, or I've been CCO or COO always forever. And I can't seem to make that transition. And a lot of times it also happens to VPs, right? So VPs one time, three times, four times, but they really want to reach to that next level of CCO, COO. I do
Yeah.
that quite a bit a lot. Uh, so I look for the skill set, maturity of a person, their willingness to sort of learn, and honestly, their willingness to persevere. That's a really important quality because it's the whole recipe is not going to be there because we're all different, but ability to sort of shake it off and move forward, and regardless of the step backs, that's an important quality. Um, Usually I will take a leap if a person has sort of 70% of what it would take, and maybe 30% is not there. Let's say maybe for the CEOs of a startup, so they haven't raised money before.
Hmm.
So I'll build a team around them. And so, for example, for a lot of the startup companies, if it's a founder who wants to step in as a CEO, I'll work with someone like yourself or through my network and provide them with a strong chief business officer who has raised money before. Maybe a strong CFO who's been around, maybe somebody who is a fractional CFO. So
Yeah.
I'll build a team, like a strong around them, and I'll literally be by their side as their mentor. They can call me anytime. They can send me whatever email they want me to read and confirm. And I am going to be committed to that person and that company. So that's why I don't take that many to whatever the success is, whether it's exit or an acquisition, and we'll build that strategy together. So I won't leave that person sort of by themselves trying to figure out, because that's what I had to do, and it certainly wasn't easy. That's why, even for people that I promote to a chief commercial officer for the first time, after they've been a VP for a long time, they probably have 80% of the skills, but maybe they're missing commercial scale up, or maybe they are not missing anything. Maybe they just haven't been given a chance.
Yeah.
And I wanted that person to be able to give that chance to them.
That's incredible. And I think what you were saying as well about if you brought someone in and they hadn't fundraised before and then you give them a CBO or a CFO who had, I think that's logical anyway, no matter how experienced you are. You almost build a team around you um, based on your weaknesses and what strengths they can add. I do it at my level, so I think that just makes so much sense.
And that's part of learning too, right? So as they get to work with these very experienced people that are experts in their field, they learn. And the next time they'll be the CEO, they'll be that much wiser and things will be that much easier. But I learned, I guess, as a CEO, I was always, the first time around, I was trying to be nimble at the expense of doing everything myself. And
Yeah.
then realizing that that's not really effective. I'm running out of steam and I can't learn fast enough on how to reconcile my budgets, do use of funds, and provide an investment strategy. So I've learned to say, okay, I am recognizing this is a gap for me and I'm going to hire people to that gap. So it wasn't an immediate epiphany, but over time I've learned, and so I now want to offer to people that I mentor maybe an easier path.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, and we spoke about this the last time we spoke, and I found your viewpoint fascinating. You've obviously worked in both big pharma and small biotech, but what can the two sectors learn from each other? And are the practices in big pharma that could benefit smaller firms and vice versa?
Oh, I love this question. It's one of my favorite questions because I think that one should experience both worlds for sure. So large pharma to me is the driver of most commercial products and a large, massive, I would say, engine for moving our healthcare forward just because they have the infrastructure, commercial teams, managed markets team, pricing teams, and everything else to have a successful launch. What
Hmm.
they are maybe lacking these days, in my humble opinion, is that ability to bridge the innovation into commercialization. And what I see, and I would love to be part of that fix, is being able to um, take more leaps into startups and be that supportive arm that young organizations need. What I hear a lot from large companies is, come back when you are in phase 1 or phase 2 now. Their goal obviously is to de-risk their assets, but even a little investment from a large pharma would go a long way for a startup. And to be honest with you, partnerships could be very different. It could be a large pharma providing regulatory support
Yeah.
if it's their areas of expertise, or other type of support to companies. So it doesn't really need to be a large financial investment. It could be a mix of investment and services. There's just a better way for large pharma to support innovation. And I feel like maybe a lot of the larger companies are sort of stuck in that box that we talked about in the beginning. But this is how we've always done it. And as they allocate more money, as the large pharma allocates more money into covering their Medicaid payments, IRA, and everything else that they're imposed to, I realize that the market is very different, how challenging it is. But that leaves less money for taking the risk on innovative companies. So
Hmm.
that leaves startups sort of struggling for in a challenging marketplace to find funding, to compete for NIH grants and so forth. So startup is sort of that opposite side of the spectrum where it's all about agility and innovation, moving really fast, really nimble, but really all about driving the science. What a lot of times startup companies lack, because a lot of times, right, it comes from academia, it's being able to say, well, I think that all the experiments moving forward, we're just going to focus on this indication, and let go of this tendency to continue to have multiple in vitro or in vivo experiments that probably drain the small startups funding. Being able to be that laser focused, something that
Hmm.
I've learned in large pharma. Once you decide this is the indication, that's it. Everybody lines up and you march towards that approval. So a lot of innovation, a lot of um, wisdom in evolution, and all of the technologies that we read about now, gene editing, RNA, mRNA, all came from universities, but they all came to fruition through a partnership with that large pharma. So if I could be part of a solution, count me in. Whoever's listening, we need to do
Yeah.
a better job in creating bridges. And maybe that means challenging the mentality of those large pharma C suite or their boards. And how do you embrace innovation earlier and become part of the solution?
I think that viewpoint's like really fascinating, and also once you say it out loud, it almost seems like, well, yeah, that's what should be happening. But like you say, they're so stuck in their ways, and it's like this is how we've always done it. Yeah, I love that viewpoint. I can see why it's your favorite question.
Well, I was sad to see some of my friends that are founders last year, because it was a tough market, having
Yeah,
to close the doors of their startups. And honestly, the innovation, the technology would have saved a lot of lives. And they just couldn't, they were knocking on all the doors and they weren't heard. So how do we create that, give back to the community, give back for every asset that thrived and saved millions, for every COVID vaccine, Keytruda out there, and every product that came out of the innovation. Give back by taking a chance on maybe five other assets that, again, it's not just financial support, it's also that regulatory support, that structure, that organization that will be so meaningful for a startup.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And then going back to you, I suppose, what legacy do you hope to leave on the biotech industry, and what impact do you aim to have through your various roles and initiatives?
Legacy sounds like a big word.
It
I
is a
would
big
like
word,
to
I
make
think. Yeah, I think it is, but I don't know if you have something in mind, or it's like, this is what I want, or
so professionally, I would love to be able to um, get rid of the box, not just change it, not just expand it, just completely eliminate, and bring the reality of the person is who they are, and they should stand on their own merits and be valued for their own achievements, beyond your own predispositions or biases. So I think that's number one. Scientifically speaking, I would love to be part of that community that creates bridges to translate innovation into commercialization. Agile Consulting Group that I formed is grounded on that. I work with a lot of universities. Now there's a new organization that I'm becoming a part of called Synapse that's going to create that accelerating incubator on a global level. And actually, the premise of the Synapse is to be able to create support for startup foundations, whether they need a CEO or maybe they need a CSO or maybe they need a CRO, but they will create that infrastructure. And number three, personally, I think we're awakening in a lot of ways as a humanity. So I think that the more we understand the science, the evolution, and the environmental impact, and who we are, and the more comfortable we become with who we are, and connecting that strength with emotions, and being able to be a strong leader and maybe being humble and having compassion and not losing that compassionate streak when you're dealing with a very tough environment, sort of becoming more one with what we all intended to be. I hope to play a small part in that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, Stella. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And look, like, subscribe to the BioHub, please do. And thanks, Stella, and speak soon.
Thank you. Bye.